I thought I would be really self-conscious last week, but I forgot about it. So you guys had me so entertained.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Feeling comfortable.
Yeah.
This thing's not even here. It doesn't even exist.
No. But you're it will exist if you're going to stay there. You have to stay there.
Yeah, I will. Really.
You're allowed to set up, though. And help yourself. Those cookies are for you.
Oh, for sure. You know I will. Do you have any cookies?
No, I just had I was at a birthday lunch with Swamiji for Chaitanya.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
What's Chaita Atma?
She's the French-Canadian girl, long, straight, dirty blonde hair, tall. She sits quite at the back, but she works around Swami a lot down at where the family lives on the land. Don't know if you would have had a chance to talk to her.
It looks cool. The background looks really good.
Well, like I said, if you need that other light, just turn it on.
Which light is it?
It's up. You see up top there?
It is turned on.
But there's for this one.
There's one over there.
Yeah.
So this turns.
No, that one.
This here?
I think so. Either that or it's the one beside it. Yeah, it's that one. Don't tell me it died. No. Okay. So it's the other one. There you go. How's that?
Yeah, you look good. It's me. It's like.
Well, you could try and gently change the position of that spotlight if you need to, but it's one of those icky fluorescent ones. So
you know what? It's okay. It looks pretty cool.
Okay.
All right. So here we are.
Here we are.
We're having tea.
We're having tea. And I'm going to check you on your Gita verses.
I'm going to check you on this cookie that I'm going to eat.
Okay.
So you're going to check me on what one we worked on last time?
Yeah.
Is it the beginning?
Mm-hmm. That's the Ya'inam. I can sing it with you.
Oh, so this is the one that's
This is the new one that you learned.
New one that's like...
Do you want to warm up first with Nainam Chindanti?
Because I haven't really done the homework.
There's no homework here. This is not the world of homework. I'm going to make sure, I'll be seeing to it that you get them drummed into your head. You won't have to do it on your own, okay? So let's do Nainam Chindanti after you swallow your cookie.
I'm going to have to use the cookies like a reward mechanism. Like,
okay.
Like if I do really well and I get this.
Okay, well there's more from where they came.
Okay.
Okay. Nainam Chindanti Shastrani Nainam Dahati Pavakaha Nachainam Kledayanti Apo Nashoshayati Marutaha Nadukya Shabdartaha Nadukya Shabdartaha Nadukya Shabdartaha. Again. Nainam Chindanti Shastrani Nainam Dahati Pavakaha Nachainam Kledayanti Apo Nashoshayati Marutaha Nadukya Shabdartaha Nadukya Shabdartaha Nadukya Shabdartaha. Great. Fantastic. Cheers. You deserve a bite of cookie for that.
Excellent. So
your pronunciation is great. Just remember it's not subdart, it's shabd.
And I after the first run through I saw it and then
shabd means word or sound, and arth is meaning. And duk is pain. So nor does any pain come to you, the self, due to any meaning associated with any sound or word spoken to you. That's why Swamiji added that. Like, that's not in the traditional Gita. He added that phrase. The rest of it is out of the traditional Gita, but he said, well, what does a human being suffer mostly from is the meaning that his mind gives to words or thoughts of his own mind speaking to him, right? Or words coming from anybody else's utterances if they tell you anything that would create pain to you. So he's saying not only is the self like free from the effect of any of the elements, the physical effect of like fire burning you, or weapons cutting you, or water making you wet, or wind or air drying you, but what is the most relevant to us is like the pain that gets created either from our own thinking, the thoughts and the meaning we give to our thoughts, the relevance or significance we give to any random thought that comes in our head. So there's no effect of that art or meaning we attribute to those thoughts, which is just a subtler form of shabd or sound, right? A thought is just a subtle sound. We don't hear it like a noise coming from outside, but it's a kind of noise going on in our head, right?
Right.
Like you've asked Swamiji such relevant questions that we could all relate to, like how to become free from the crystallization of my thinking or any kind of negative thinking. And his answer is always by knowing you're that I where thought doesn't reach. You're at the source from where thoughts are made. So then if you identify with that as your reality, then you know you have the power as that source, observer, or knower who witnesses those thoughts to pick up those thoughts that will work for you and to ignore and not indulge the thoughts that won't work for you.
That is so like what I need. I think if I can get that down, like my life's gonna go just, swimmingly wonderful.
And that's what we all need. Like, you're not alone in that. Like, that is the predicament of every human being. You just openly say it. But every human being is dealing with that, but they're not even aware that they're dealing with it, so they can't even ask or how can I be free of it. They just spend their time distracting themselves from it as much as they possibly can.
That's what I do. That's why I watch TV all the time, because I can't, be alone in my head, because it's going to tell me that I'm, no good and a piece of junk or whatever it tells me. That's a lie.
Yeah, right. And most human beings are dealing with that in one way or another, but they're not even aware of it. They're just busy successfully distracting themselves, which they may call success, but in the long run that doesn't really make you free. The only thing that's going to make you free is to come to that realization that you're not your thinking. Thinking is something that was superimposed on your pure I. And you're so aware and open to that purity that you're highly sensitive to that thinking. So most people don't even know they're busy watching TV to distract themselves from it. They just are so on automatum to like, okay, let me, I'll overeat, or I'll watch TV, or I'll just get busy, until they're forced to retire by old age, and then they're like freaked out because they can't be alone with their thoughts. Most human beings can't be alone with their thinking.
What's interesting to me is like, how did that develop? Because I think animals don't have that. It's like a special problem only devoted to human beings.
Well, we have, as human beings evolve, like we have this wonderful intellect that can serve us or be our worst enemy, but the development of our intellect, like Swamiji always gives the example of the purity of a newborn child. And then first he learns his name, and he's rewarded, like with cookies or lollipops, or, oh yes, look, he learned his name, have a cookie, have a balloon, this is great. And then he's told, he's rewarded if he does something that's considered good, and he's punished if he does something that's considered bad. And we're trained, our training gets built. But whereas when we were first born or in the womb, we weren't even thinking we were a separate being, let alone a relation, or let alone all the qualifications that later on get added on to us. And we're given these qualifications always made to feel that we weren't born whole and perfect. But if we became this or we did this, then now we'll become great or perfect. But with that comes the opposite side. And if we don't do that, we're as if a failure or we're imperfect. Whereas the child, before that training was built, he never had the sense, am I perfect or am I imperfect? Am I great or am I small? Am I more or am I less? Am I good or am I bad? He had no knowledge of any of that, and he was just pure being. And
so that's what we're striving for at the International Meditation Institute is
reconnect to our purity of being. And that doesn't mean you throw your intellectual development out the window, or it doesn't mean you're going to be dysfunctional. But if you're identifying with that pure being as yourself, you're already starting off with a full pot instead of an empty pot, thinking that everything you're going to do is going to make you full or define you in some way. You're already undefinable, free space, and then whatever you do, you're doing from there. You're not doing it to become great. It's not your doings or your actions that are going to define you You're already perfect, whole. You're not even Jeffrey Sham, an individual. You're that pure being before you learnt your name. Now you're taking on the role of Jeffrey Sham, and you can make a good movie. Mm-hmm. Because you're free. You're not doing it out of a sense of incompleteness or thinking there's something wrong with you unless you produce or perform, or you know what I mean? And that's where all the complexes come from, because we're already starting off thinking if we don't do all those things, we're imperfect. So it's what every human being is striving for, not just at the International Meditation Institute. We happen to be blessed to have a guru that unfolds that awareness in us, that tells us, no, it's valid to want to feel fulfilled. It's valid to want to know our sense of perfection. It's valid not to want to accept death, destruction, disease, and misery as our true nature. Something inside knows we never die. Something inside knows we're whole and we're perfect. And something inside knows we're unchanging, and that's why we get disappointed again and again when we're faced with the opposite.
So this is all about connecting with your spirit, because the spirit is what's going to be unchanging.
Yeah, your spirit. You can use the word spirit, or Swami will say true self. Your pure being.
Because I have a hard time grasping it. I think I'm really, coming up from the West. I'm connected with the body, and the body is like gaining weight or losing weight or getting older or
Well, that's why
getting injured.
Yeah. Well, and that continues. It's not as if you meditate and become aware of yourself that your body won't get injured if you do something that's going to injure your body, or you're not going to gain weight or lose weight or all those things. But you're going to know that that's happening to the body, not to you, not to who you really are. But that's why, it only comes through the practice of meditation and the study, like the examination of how the mind functions, and always tells you otherwise. The mind, as long as we're living on earth, is always going to tell us we're a body, we're a form, and we're all these qualifications, and we're all these changes that happen to us. And because the eyes are going to always see form. Like the senses and the mind and the intellect are only trained outward. But that's why we have to bring in another technique that turns them inward on itself to where they get settled down. Like when you told me that day, when you had that beautiful interaction with Swami on the seat a few days ago, you said, I don't know, Atma, like after that, the whole rest of the day I was in another space. I felt so different, like so amazing. But we don't know what to call that different. We'll say happy or easy, and all of that is true, but you transcended your mind, your thinking, your normal everyday, day-to-day thinking, because you were involved in an interaction that took you out of your personality self and gave you a sense or a direct experience of your pure being.
Well, I asked him all the right questions too. Well, that's what I wanted. I said, how do I get out of being crystallized and thinking a certain way, and not being negative?
Yeah.
And how do you change your energy field? It's kind of what basically I said of the second question,
But you must have felt like something more happened to you on the seat than just him giving you an answer.
Yes.
He put you in another state, which you could call the answered state. Like at a certain point you probably felt like, I don't even know if I'm hearing the words right now, or I certainly can't formulate a question right now. So you actually were in the fourth state. You were in an altered state, which was beyond your mind. And that's what daily happens to us in satsang when Swamiji speaks. And that's what happens to us at some part or moment in our meditation, even if we're not aware of it, because we think we're thinking all the time. And sometimes you think, oh, I don't know, I just closed my eyes and my mind wouldn't shut up the whole time I sat there. And sometimes it feels like that. But in fact, that's not the case. Swami always says, you just put yourself in the posture, do the breathing technique I told you, and let the rest, leave it to God, leave it to grace. And I remember in the earlier days, we'd be sitting around down below in the Patanjali hall and nighttime satsang, and he'd put us into meditation, and a lot of us would always say, Swami, I don't know how to control my thoughts, or I never feel like my mind starts thinking. So he made an experiment, and after the meditation he said, okay, we're going to go around the room, and each person is going to tell me what the thoughts were they were having while they were meditating. He said, you think you're thinking all the time, let's hear it, and of course some of us didn't want to tell what our thoughts were. Right, totally. I mean, and he never forced, but what he showed us was most of us just could recall 2 or 3 thoughts, and he said, you see, you think you were thinking the whole time, but you weren't. But because you were in a concentrated space, you're only remembering those 2 thoughts or 3 thoughts, and you're thinking it took up your whole sitting, He said, but it didn't. You just are missing the awareness of when you're not in your thinking, because the same person who's noticing the thinking isn't there when you're out of thinking. You know what I mean? You transcend. You're out of the mind field altogether. So you're sometimes not even aware, or you don't recognize when that space happens to you. Like many times in school, we'd be called, or chided for daydreaming or whatever they called it, right? Mm-hmm. But that's when we just would transcend the mind. I had a French teacher that she would always catch me. She could see it in my face and in my eyes when she'd be teaching, and then she'd ask me a question right at that moment, and I had been out of the field, but she'd make me feel like I did something wrong, because, you're not paying, fais attention, you're not paying attention, you're daydreaming, and you'd be made to feel that was wrong. Mm-hmm. So we go into that state quite naturally, but we miss it, we don't recognize it. So when we meditate, it's like we're consciously familiarizing ourselves with that. And it is a hard work. Like, our practice is to keep reminding ourselves, that's who I really am.
That's really interesting, though. I've never thought about that like a daydream is basically like a little mini meditation, and it is usually seen as a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like, stop daydreaming,
Yeah, get back with your mind. Mm-hmm. Come to reality. Here, concrete, forms, thinking, even if your thinking makes you miserable, but at least it's real, Mm-hmm. We never, like Swami said, you go to sleep every night and you're pure being, but you just write it off as deep sleep and don't ever have an idea that might have have a purpose to let you know something else of who you are. It's our most blessed time of day. That's why Swami says there's nothing wrong with sleep. Why do you think there's something wrong with sleep?
I love sleeping.
Yeah.
That's one thing I want to do, though, is I don't know, I've gotten into this kind of channel of like, boo-hoo, woe is me. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm going to title it. And I, a lot of times, and actually I think it stuck with me, is I watched an episode of Married with Children when I was, in junior high. And Al Bundy, who's like the lead character, mm-hmm. He said, oh yeah, Peg, he's talking to his wife, Peg or whatever. He says, every time I wake up in the morning, I can't wait for it to be, to get through the day so I can go to sleep again at night, Mm-hmm. And that's how I've been feeling lately, is I dread the day, because I just haven't really enjoyed being in my skin. And you know, when I go to sleep, I'm like, yes, I got to go to sleep at night, and you know, escape this kind of thing, like, because my thoughts have gotten so bad and negative. So I think I need this thing, and that's why God is directing me. Because I do have a spirituality. Like, I do believe in God, and I believe in things happening for a reason, destiny, and I also believe in free choice and all of those kind of things. But I don't think that's, you know, right to feel that way. I think that, you know, like, because actually it's funny is I used to love mornings. Like, the mornings used to be like, yes. And I used to actually have all this energy, and I would wake up like at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. That would be my favorite. If I could wake up like before the sun is even rising, and like kind of watch the sunrise, and do some working out or do some kind of thing, and then have a coffee and wake up and then do my email thing or plan my day out, that would be like A+. That would be like, you know, the mornings would be the best. Then like usually like early afternoon, I would get a little tired, and then I get like that. I get into kind of a hump like around 3 and 4 in the afternoon where I'm having a difficult time staying awake, and I want to take a little power nap before, you know, chores in the evening time and that kind of thing. But basically, lately, morning's been like, I don't want to wake up, I don't want to get out of bed. So that's something I want to try to change.
Well, yeah, because if you made your morning time, like what I do when I wake up in the morning, because it can be a little bit of a sense of a crash landing when you wake up, because it's like suddenly you've come from being total space, no thinking, not even a sense of yourself as a separate individual. And I think that's why we don't like to feel separate. Nobody likes to feel separate. So when you sort of suddenly you find yourself in the waking state, which is just a state of consciousness, you've come out of a deep sleep state, and now you're in the waking state. And now that I, that was totally peaceful and undivided, is starting to think, I'm Jeffrey Shaw, I'm a separate person. And with it just comes the whole knapsack of everything that makes you separate. And you don't want to feel that way. None of us want to feel that way. So as soon as I sit up in the morning, I meditate. I don't even leave my bed to even get a glass of water. In fact, and I used to get up and make myself a cup of tea and then go back to my seat and meditate. And I noticed, and then once I was at an interview, I happened to be present serving tea when Swami was having an interview with someone, and they expressed how they're going through this phase where they're finding they wake up in the morning and they're instantly really in a bad mood. They feel just dreadful when they wake up in the morning. They said, what should I do? And Swamiji asked them, well, do you meditate? And they say, yeah, I get up and I go and I make my cup of tea or I have a glass of water and then I go back and sit down and meditate. He said at that time to that person, and it's ever since he said it to that person, which he often gives different advice to different people. He said, no, don't even leave your bed. Just sit up, and at least, it doesn't matter how long you sit for, but before you do anything, close your eyes and meditate.
So actually sit up in your bed.
Yeah, sit up.
Because you can't, like, I always try to meditate lying down, and I think you can't really do that, can you?
Well, you can. I had to for over a year when my back was out, you know, but I find, and doing mala when you're lying down helps you more stay alert, or like Swamiji gave you that amazing breathing exercise, and he said you could do it sitting down or lying down. You can do either. But if you want to come out of deep sleep, you could make an experiment. Just see. Just when you wake up, sit up. And what I do now is I keep a glass of water by my bed when I go to sleep at night. So if I need to drink when I first wake up, which is a good thing to do, I either in the winter have a thermos of hot water or summer cold water, and I just have a glass of water. Don't get into any activity like leaving my bed. And I just close my eyes and meditate before I do anything. And like I said, even if you have to get up after 10 minutes, it's okay. But if you enter, just try it. Because it really made a difference for me. I started to notice my best meditations are when I first wake up in the morning, because I haven't become active yet. So that Rajagun, you know, those when you asked about the different energies, so that quality of activity hasn't yet taken you over. So your mind is much more naturally still. So you don't have to work as hard to still it. You just start doing that breathing technique Swamiji gave you. And if you still feel like lying down, do it lying down. But before you do anything, do that. Even if it's 10 minutes, and then get up and go to the bathroom or whatever you have to do. And then go back to your seat if you want to meditate more. But I find for me the most important meditation of the day is when I first wake up.
What is the difference between meditation and sleep?
Well, in meditation, you're bringing in an awareness of awareness. In deep sleep, the mind gets absorbed in the space, and you sort of unconsciously experience your state of pure being, but it doesn't really help you in your waking state because it's not making you identify with that as being your reality. Mm-hmm. I mean, we would never have even thought of it if we didn't have a guru pointing out to us, hey, did you ever think of what that experience of deep sleep is? No, we never would have thought anything of it. We just would have said, I slept well, and never paid attention that there was some element of awareness there to let us know after that I slept well. But when you meditate, you are consciously watching. Like he told you, you watch when you inhale, and where does that breath go to when you just hold it, even if it's for a split of a second. And then you watch when you exhale, and where does that breath go to now on the exhalation before you inhale again. And just, so what you're doing is you're cultivating an alertness. You're channeling the mind that would otherwise go into thinking to slowly, slowly bring you into a sense of disassociating from your thinking mind. It's a process that makes that happen on its own. Because normally we're just following every thought that comes in our head, right? But when you bring in the watching of the breath, and like he said, at that split second between the inhalation and the exhalation, and then again between the exhalation and the inhalation, where the breath is held even if for a split second, because he keeps emphasizing, he's given me that technique too, that watch that gap and don't force. It's not as if you have to hold your breath for any amount of time. You're not meant to. It should be just really easy. But just watch that gap between the inhalation and the exhalation. And that space is pure knowledge, and that's who you are. And just keep bringing that into your awareness. You can't do that when you're asleep, right? Mm-hmm. So this is sort of like awakening your awareness of who you are. That's what meditation does. It gets you in touch with yourself. That's not just Jeffrey Sham, a form, a name associated to a body that's changing, or a mind that's changing, or a personality that's either happy or unhappy. You go into another space that's, like he said, neither pain or joy. It's just a state of knowingness. So that would be the difference. That would be what meditation allows you to direct the experience. But if you don't tell yourself, that's who I am, then you'll keep missing it. You know, that's why Swami said the gyan, or the knowledge, the practice of the knowledge, is so important. It's not enough to just sit and close your eyes, but you've got to bring in the element of awareness in your day-to-day life, that when your mind does start to bother you, that, oh yeah, now I'm in the field of my imagination. And I don't have to freak out about it. This is how the mind functions. This is the way my particular mind has been trained to think, but I don't have to believe it, because I just experienced myself free from all of that.
Have you ever, not known what you're doing with your life, and then you kind of go into meditation where it's like, okay, give me sort of some insight about where I should be, and then come out of meditation kind of knowing what that is? Because that's sort of what I, want to have happen, I think. That's kind of what I'm going through right now.
That you're expecting to come out of a meditation sitting with some kind of concrete answer telling you what you're meant to be doing with your life? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Have you had that experience, or?
Yeah, I mean, Swamiji has always told us that if you can't make us say a decision, he said, then don't think at that moment you've got to make a decision. But if you meditate at that time and just let your mind become still or free from the worrying or the thinking of the pros and the cons and all the things the mind does, right?
Right.
That an answer from the space will come. Yeah. And you don't have to rush it, and you don't have to make it happen. It'll come.
When it's supposed to.
Yeah. And you are right where you're meant to be now. Like, if it's not coming and telling you something otherwise, then you're doing just what you're meant to be doing right now. And you don't have to think much past that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Being in the moment.
Yeah. Like he said to Claire's sister Catherine today. You know, when you'll be wondering about the future and you'll be wondering about the past. But if you cancel the future and you cancel the past, then your wondering, you'll notice, goes away. It doesn't live in the ever-present. So, but the mind is always going to be wanting to wrap us up in the sense of a future and a past. And our practice is to not ride those waves of the mind when they're not necessary, you know, and to trust that the ever-present reality, that who we are, will speak to us perfectly, because that's the whole illusion, that we're a separate individual being that's got to make a decision right now about da-da-da-da-da, and it's going to outline my whole life and it's going to map it all out for me. But could you have even known a year ago that you would have been sitting here right now in my room learning Gita verses?
Would have never guessed.
Yeah. And when I ended up first coming here, I remember, like, when I was in high school and I was studying biology, and we were learning all about the different kind of microbial diseases you could get, and they were all from countries like Africa, India, and everything. And I remember thinking, oh, well, I certainly don't have to worry about that. I'm certainly never going to go there. And I didn't know that I was going to be living most of my life in India, you know.
So there's a lot of micro, diseases or whatever?
No, just the textbooks tell you that. No, but it was just, it was actually mostly Africa they were speaking. But I never had a sense I was going to be out of North America. I might go traveling in Europe, but never thought I'd be living in Asia, in India. Never. I didn't even have... I liked incense and all these things, but I didn't know at that time of my life that I was going to be living in a little cave in the Himalayas.
Life is unpredictable like that.
Yeah, and life is moving us. Like, that inner being is moving us. Everything that you've lived up until now, it's all been perfect. It's all been that life moving you, and it brought you here now, and you got to trust that.
Do you think in 2012 something's going to happen?
No, you mean like all those predictions?
Yeah.
I mean, something's happening all the time, but no, I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. If we're lucky and we realize it'll be the end of the sense of the world, because our mind will be totally absorbed and enlightened. But no, I don't go there, And these are all the products of somebody's imagination.
Do you ever think that space aliens are going to land on planet Earth and try to conquer us? Or
No. They're trippy things. You can trip down them and think about it if you want.
Do you ever see UFOs?
No. Have you?
Yeah.
Have you really?
Oh, yeah.
Really? Where?
Everywhere.
Well, you're probably just like very, very open and tuning into subtle energies that aren't perceived by the normal senses. But then, scientists will call them UFOs or aliens or this and that, but they're probably just energy fields that are existing all the time. You just happen to perceive them.
What kind of energy fields do you think?
I don't know, because I don't see them. You're more evolved than I am.
I wouldn't say that, but what about like parallel dimensions?
Yeah.
Life on other planets. You ever think about those kind of things?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it all exists, but it's not what I spend my time entertaining. Like I feel like the imagination can take us anywhere, and it is it's coming from that sense that our senses don't know it all. Like we think our eyes, whatever our senses tell us, that's the reality, and that which which is beyond the perception of our senses, like things that you're describing and you seem to be very open to, as if they don't exist just because our senses can't see them. No, I don't think that at all. But what really interests me is what knowledge is going to bring about the sense of liberation for me. So I can go down those thought channels if I want to, but it doesn't interest me because it's not going to liberate me from my sense of myself as a separate small individual. So I rather put my attention on that which is going to do that for me, what's going to make me feel the peace of my true being, rather than the wavering, agitated, sometimes happy, sometimes unhappy state of the mind and the intellect and the ego personality, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't think I ever would have known that if I didn't, meet a guru. When I met my guru, I just saw he's living a space. It's clear. He doesn't even have to tell me he's living a state. I can feel it when I'm in his presence. I can see it watching him in his day-to-day life. Whatever he's got, I want it. That's all I knew. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how, but I just thought he's definitely feels like the ideal of who I really am, and I'll adopt the techniques that he gives me to unfold that in myself. I could just tell he was totally fulfilled, wanting nothing and unshaken in all situations I've seen him through all these years.
Was Jesus a guru?
Probably. I never met him, or I might have in another life. Probably have, actually. But yeah, he must have been, and he had to speak to whatever the awareness of the people were in his time, But it's whether or not he was or isn't really relevant to me unfolding the state of pure free forever. So whatever will bring that about, that's what I direct my kind of focus of, attention on. But yeah, I think there have been many enlightened beings.
Do you think Ronald McDonald is a guru?
Who?
Ronald McDonald.
Who's Ronald McDonald?
He's a clown that is in the McDonald's commercial.
Oh! No, I'm not in tune with Ronald McDonald. Should we get back to the Gita first?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm going to be exposed to my ignorance. Okay, let's sing that Nainam Jandanti again.
Oh, the first one? The one that, okay.
Yeah, the one that you just sang. Yeah, then we'll get to the other.
Okay.
Nainam Chindanti Shastrani, Nainam Dahati Pavakaha, Nachainam Kledayanti Apo, Nashoshayati Maharutaha, Nadukya Shabdartaha, Nadukya Shabdartaha, Nadukya Shabdartaha. Okay, now let's try the other one.
All right.
Take it a little higher, because it goes lower. Ya enam veti.
Oh, veti.
Yeah. Ya enam veti hantaram. Yashchainam manyate hatam. Ubhau tau navijanito. Nayam hanti nahanyate. Great, let's do it a few times. Let's just do the first half of the first line. We'll go over that. Ya enam veti hantaram. Let's say that 5 times. Ya enam veti hantaram. Ya enam veti hantaram. Ya enam veti hantaram. Once more. Ya enam veti hantaram. Great. Next. Yashchainam manyate hatam. Hatam.
Hatam.
Yeah. Yashchainam manyate hatam. Yashchainam manyate hatam. Yashchainam manyate hatam. Hatam.
Hatam.
Hatam. Let's do that whole line. The higher, a bit higher.
Okay.
Yaenam veti. Veti.
Veti.
Yeah. When I write AY there, think of it like the English word say.
Okay.
Okay? Yaenam veti hantaram. Yashchainam manyate hatam. Perfect. Amazing. Do it 5 times. I'll sing it 2 of those times with you, and then you're on your own. Ya enam veti hantaram. Yashchainam manyate hatam. Ya enam veti hantaram. Yashchainam manyate hatam.
Ya enam veti hantaram. Yashchainam manyate hatam.
Great. 2 more times.
Ya enam veti hantaram. Yashchainam manyate hatam.
And don't rush the word veti. It's veti. Whenever you see AY, the way I wrote it, think of the word say, and think of how long it takes you to say the say. You don't go say, right?
Yeah,
you
say.
You go say. It's
say.
a long A, okay?
I want to say something.
Yeah, okay? Yeah, right, perfect. So it's the same thing, veti.
Veti.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, let's sing that line one more time and then we'll do the second. Yaenam veti. You see that?
Yeah,
see how you rushed it?
Yeah.
Yaenam veti hantaram. Yashchainam manyate hatam. Yaenam veti hantaram. Yashchainam manyate hatam. Yaenam veti hantaram. Yashchainam manyate hatam. Perfect. Okay, next part. Just the first half of that line. Ubhau tau navijanito. Perfect again. Ubhau tau navijanito. Without me.
Ubhau tau navijanito.
Okay, think of that oo.
Oo.
Because there's 2 oos in Sanskrit. There's oo that's just written with a u, like I wrote there, or there's oo, long oo, and that's when in certain words you'll see I write it o, like the word to in English, right? So when you see just the u, it's called a short u. So you don't hold that syllable as long as the bhau. So it's ubhau.
Ubhau.
Yeah, just come off the
Ubhau.
Yeah, you don't have to rush.
Ubhau.
Perfect. Ubhau tau and ow and tau, those are long vowels.
Ubhau tau.
Perfect. Navijanito.
Navijanito.
Yeah, so just to give you a basis, there's long and short vowels in Sanskrit. There's not many of them, but there's like a short E and a long E, a short A and a long A, and a short U and a long U. And then ow is considered long also. So that's what we're dealing with. That's why one syllable is pronounced a tiny bit longer than the other. Ubhau tau navijanito. Perfect. Do it on your own.
Ubhau tau navijanito.
Good. Now, nayam hanti nahunyate.
Nayam hanti na hanyate.
Perfect. Nayam hanti na hanyate.
Nayam hanti na hanyate.
Okay, let's do that whole line. Ubhau tau navijanito. Nayam hanti na hanyate. So just as a brief reminder of the meaning of this verse that we did last time, he who knows that this soul is capable of killing or being killed, he doesn't know the truth of the self, because the self, neither can it kill anyone or can it be killed. Okay, so that's what this verse basically says, because Arjun's in the dilemma, like, how am I going to kill all I see this army faced against me, they're all my relations, my gurus, like, how can I do it? And he's saying, your reality is that self which cannot cause killing, and these body forms in front of you are not that self that can never be cut, killed, wet by water, burnt by fire. So if you know that the self or soul is that which can be killed or cause killing, then you haven't understood the reality of the self. That's basically what Krishna is telling Arjuna. So he's preparing his mind to hear what the actual reality of the self is, which is what Nainam Chindanti Shastrani. By the time you get to that verse, now he's giving him the goods. You know, he's saying, no, this is what your true nature is, and this is what is the true nature of all these so-called body forms your eyes are seeing standing arrayed against you.
He's getting more specific.
That's right. He's getting to the point. First, he's pointing out his faulty consciousness as a human being that takes forms to be the reality, and therefore thinks that he is that form that's going to cause killing, and that they are those forms that are going to be killed. Okay?